They even allowed him to go out as a policeman at times to because he wanted to.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, you're right. The DuPonts did do that with that book, and they are extremely powerful. There isn't one way to illustrate that is to call people's attention to all of the items that we use in our everyday life. Every day we use items that the DuPont company manufactures. You can't go through a day without using some product that they have the patent rights to. And then, of course, our whole military-industrial complex, the DuPonts had a monopoly during several wars on all of the gunpowder that was being made, and made incredible large sums of money during the wars that we fought.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Onassis.
Okay.
Now, Aristotle Onassis, of course, married Jacqueline Kennedy,
Yeah.
and shocked the whole world at the time. People seem to see him as some kind of a seedy Greek shipping tycoon, and of course she was almost like a member of royalty to the public. But evidently the Onassis, according to your book, had a lot of connections with the Kennedys even before John Kennedy's death.
Yes, they were co-workers in the underworld, and Aristotle, during World War II, you get a picture of how powerful these people are, that during World War II, Aristotle's ships, and he had several hundred, sailed in every theater of the war, and they applied their merchandise to both the Allies and the Axis, and all of the shipping fleet was never attacked by either side once. And yet, they were flying, a lot of them were flying the Greek flag, and essentially the entire Greek merchant fleet was sunk. Ships flying the Greek flag were sunk, a large share of them in the Mediterranean, but others in other theaters. But it took the highest collaboration at the highest levels for Onassis' ships to go unscathed throughout the entire Second World War. That shows the power of these people.
All right, and let's talk about another one, Russell, the Russell family. Now, there was a Russell who helped to found the Order of Skull and Bones,
Yes.
also known as the Society of Skull and Bones. Is that by accident, you think?
No, the Russell family was identified to me by numerous people that have been in the Illuminati as being one of the top 13 bloodlines. And when I got into investigating it, like you referred to how this General William Huntington Russell had created this Skull and Bone Society. Well, that Skull and Bone Society is legally incorporated as the Russell Trust, and guess who has belonged to that? Of course, you know, George Bush, and now his son is running for president. Very interesting, huh? Well, the Russell family is very tied in with the Taft family, and they've also played a very powerful role in American history. But one of the modern day offshoots of the Skull and Bone Society is Wackenhut. And for all of those people that are UFO, people that are very interested in the UFO scene or abductees or whatever, guess who is guarding a lot of these military bases like Area 51, it's Wackenhut, which was sort of like the Illuminati's private security force that the Skull and Bones Society set up.
What, the Wackenhut security, the corporation?
Yes. Yeah, and Wackenhut stands for several corporations that are interrelated, to be technically accurate. There isn't just one Wackenhut corporation, there's several.
The name is very curious, Wackenhut.
Yeah, it was named after the Wackenhuts, who were Skull and Boners, who also tied or related to the Russells, who started it.
Now, you mentioned the Onassis dynasty in your book, or bloodline, the Krupps out of Germany, but there's one out of Red China, or I should say just Chinese. Maybe you can discuss that briefly, the Li, L-I, family.
In fact, recently, and I didn't get to see it, there was a movie about Li Peng. You mentioned him. He was the leader of China. The Lees pop up in a lot of places, and they've been good friends with, the Lees have been good friends with these European Illuminati bloodlines for many, many years, maybe centuries, it appears. It appears like the relationship may go all the way back to the days when Marco Polo was opening up the Orient to the Venetian families. And some of the bloodlines of the Illuminati today have blood that goes back to these powerful Venetian families. And so you've got a long relationship between the Lee family and these other powerful families.
All right, now let's just say that I was a person who believed what the media says, and all I had to do was read the local newspapers and Newsweek and Time, those kind of rags, and watch the CBS, ABC news programs and such. And I saw the Lee family, and I said, Illuminati? Oh, come on. Because obviously the communist Mao Zedong and those that took over China, they would have never allowed the capitalist Lee family to continue to operate in Red China after they took over in the late 40s. Would they? What would be your response?
Well, my response would be to, if they were open, and everybody is at a different place as to where they're ready to learn something, but if somebody was at a place where they were willing to learn, I would give them more than a soundbite answer. I would explain to them how the Illuminati created communism and how the very bloodlines that we're talking about were intimately involved in Russia, and how Russia was intimately involved in the creation of communist China, and worked with Chinese leaders to bring that government about, and how communism is really simply just Illuminism. It's Karl Marx, for instance, was a Satanist and wrote many secret books about Satan. These kind of things are only known by the communist hierarchy and a few other people. Then if you go in and look at these Chinese leaders and also the Russian communists, for instance, I have a picture in the Astor chapter where the Astors went over in the 1930s to Russia, and Stalin hosted them like they were royalty. He rolled out the red carpet. And you would ask yourself, well, why do these capitalists get treated like kings? Why are they given the royal treatment by these communist dictators who run around and act like they're taxi cab drivers? Well, the same thing happened when David Rockefeller went to Red China. The Lee family, was right there to roll out the red carpet again.
I remember reading, somebody sent me an article from the New York Times, the last time Boris Yeltsin visited America. Just a little bitty item. It talked about his itinerary, and it stated that he had also visited New York City, where he spent a couple of hours with the Rockefellers in their private apartment. I thought that was very interesting that Boris Yeltsin, head of Russia, would do that. There's, of course, a Jewish dynasty that seems building in Russia now. Primakov was recently demoted, evidently after he went head-to-head with Berezovsky. A lot of things going on with the Illuminati in Russia. Maybe we'd do a whole program on that sometime. Let's talk about the Reynolds. A lot of people know about Reynolds Wrap, Reynolds Aluminum. I guess we only have a couple of minutes here, but tell us just a little bit about the Reynolds.
Well, they're a name brand item. And
yeah.
These Reynolds companies are definitely tied to the Illuminati Reynolds. The Reynolds family connects in with a lot of other families, the Biddles, the Colemans, the Dukes, and a lot of people may be familiar with Doris Duke. She was the richest woman of the world, and her father was Buck Duke, and the Reynolds have been involved in tobacco, and they've had just enormous power in the South.
Well, I tell you, Fritz, we're out of time here, and I had so many more questions for you. I hope we can do this again to talk about some more of these, especially the Krupps over in Germany. I know there was Nazi connections, just incredible things there. I wanted to ask you about the John F. Kennedy assassination, but we're totally out of time. I want to tell you, though, how much I appreciate you writing this book, exposing these things, putting your own self at jeopardy.
Thanks, Ted.
And then most of all, I appreciate the Christian perspective you have in all of your books, and I thank you for that as well. Thank you for being a guest, Fritz Springmeier, on Power of Prophecy.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Folks, we expose these things. The Bible tells us to. We're not going to stop doing it. They may want to take us off the air, but until they do, well, we're going to keep telling the truth, and we're going to keep looking up for the appearance of our Lord Jesus.